Well, it seems we have a little central banker problem. That's exactly what's going on in Davos right now. But what is new at the end of the day? This is the annual retreat, the annual pilgrimage of all the holy ones, the high priests of currency and fiat debasement. Here we are with Brian Armstrong, some unusual suspects fighting with central bankers, and the Davos crowd laughing at the prospect of Bitcoin. It is pure comedy gold, and really a harbinger for things to come at the end of the day. So let's check this out and see exactly what's going on. And this kind of tells you everything that you need to know here at the end of the day.
To address this, is the euro in danger from a Bitcoin standard?
No, I'm a bit skeptical, Brian. Sorry to say it about this idea of the Bitcoin standard. We left the gold standard, but the gold was only a technical mean. What is important is what you say, Bert, that monetary policy and money is part of sovereignty. And we live in democracies, and I think the public role is key. And if we lose that, really you lose a key function of democracy. That said, I always keep repeating that money, as long as it exists for centuries, has been a public-private partnership. You need a public anchor, whatever its form is. Remember, and silver and gold were sovereign assets, so it was on the public side. And then you had banknotes, and you will have CBDC. But anyway, the most important part of payments is in the private sphere, and this is the development of tokenized private money. But this tokenized private money must be regulated to inspire trust, confidence.
It's fascinating that you say that. Brian, you mentioned a complementary role that you could play.
So I think that crypto is very good for fiat currencies. It's very good. Bitcoin is like good as a check and balance on deficit spending, because when there is a lack of trust, or people, from like in a U.S. context, if people are worried about inflation, or maybe in places like Argentina or Turkey or Nigeria, they are going to flee to the thing that they believe is going to store value more. So I think in general it's going to be very complementary, and like you said, I think it comes down to trust. And so if fiat currencies can maintain trust and not have the money printer kind of debasing everybody, then they'll survive. But if countries that have bad behavior on that dimension, Bitcoin doesn't have a money printer. The supply is fixed, and people will go to it in times of uncertainty, kind of like they did with gold.
The guarantee for trust is independence on central bank side. And we have a common mandate, and we are accountable to that. But sorry to say that I trust more independent central banks with a democratic mandate than private issuers of Bitcoin, which have a very useful role. But
Bitcoin is a decentralized protocol. There's actually no issuer of it. So that's in the sense that central banks have independence. Bitcoin is even more independent. There's no country or company or individual who controls it in the world. And so anyway, I think it's a healthy competition, because if people can decide which one they trust more, and I think it's actually the greatest accountability mechanism on deficit spending.
Bill?
Well, there you have it, folks. There you have it. So what is it at the end of the day? The central bankers think they are independent. And again, I don't know. I mean, you guys tell me. You put in there, is this a case of human beings rationalizing what they're doing and thinking they are actually doing the right thing? And so Scott Adams always talked about this. God rest his soul. Just passed away last week or 2 weeks ago? Last week. And he always talked about this frame of people think it's good versus evil. And I've been a victim of this and saying this. We've talked about this a lot, of good versus evil. And he said it's not good versus evil. It's not evil versus evil. It's good versus good. And really every human being thinks that they are good. They think they're on the right side. And there's a guy in Germany, the chancellor, 100 years ago, and he was convinced that what he was doing was the right thing to do. This was how we're going to fix the world. Everyone thinks that they are on the right side of history. What's going on in Minnesota? What's going on? The protests everywhere. We've seen these for a long time. The person that takes someone out, whatever it is, they think they're on the right side. Now we can get into the the MK Ultra, we can get into these conspiracy, not conspiracy debates, but like the different programs, the psyops, those things are real. They happen, obviously. Like we've talked about these things ad nauseum over time. But the long-standing issue is that vast majority of humans think they are right. They think they are good. They think they are doing the right thing, going the right way. And here we are with the bankers doing exactly that. They are fighting that fight, saying, "Hey, ha ha ha." I guess, and again, I guess we're at the laugh you stage still. Is that where we're at? The laugh at you stage. So I don't know if we're totally at the fight you stage yet, because they're still laughing. And I don't know if that's a nervous laughter. Again, you guys tell me if that's a nervous laughter or whatever it might be. But some of the clips coming out of Davos are just insanely wild. I think we talked about some of them the other day with Ray Dalio. This Randy Weingarten clip is wild too. The head of the teachers union, I believe she's the head of the teachers union, the NEA, the National Education Administration Association here in America, and her talking about, we are in lockstep with you. We are doing exactly this. And again, I'm 38 years old. I've been around a while, and I've been paying attention to politics very closely since the year 2000, believe it or not. Yes, since I was 13 years old. And these people have been saying the same thing for a long time. We've been trying to get America into these charters, into these treaties, into all these different things. And we've gotten to a place where it looks like Donald Trump's breaking all those things. He's trying to break all of this. Whether he is or not, really, that's what it looks like. Again, I'm not going to try to mind read him. We're not going to sit here and mind read him. But this new world order, this multipolar order, is being broken up by Bitcoin. At the end of the day, Bitcoin is the thing that's put a wedge into everything here. Bitcoin is the thing, the fissure in the system, whether people know it or not, whether they admit it or not, doesn't matter. Because as Brian Armstrong said, which we, aside from putting your kids into school when you're 3 in government-run schools, and then we're doing these global agendas, and we have for whatever reason, the American head of the Education Association, which the communism, Marxism aside of what she is, why is she over there? What are we doing at the end of the day? And so from where I sit for the last 26 years, it does look like Donald Trump is doing everything he can to break that. Now, again, the stranglehold, I should say, with the globalism and what's happening, whether this ends up happening or not, or whether he's co-opted or not, I have no idea. It's just what it looks like from here. And Bitcoin is driving the wedge into all that, and it's creating this schism. It's creating this this mirror as to what's going on. So these guys laughing still, the French governor still of the Bank of England, or the Bank of the French central bank, not understanding and not getting what's going on. This is a world we are living in. Keep your Bitcoin in cold storage. Thank me later, right? People over on the West Coast getting jailed for having rainwater, collecting rainwater on their own property, right? So all these clown world activities are, and again, Bram sharing this with these two kind of going at it, is just, it's a sign of the times and where we're at right now. Randy Weingarten, this, you can go down the list. I was just bookmarking thing after thing of what's happening in the clown world, of how they're going to control, and how the globalists want to control everyone. It's the pesticides on our food. It's the Bill Gates butter that we've got here somewhere. Here we go. The Bill Gates butter. You got to watch this for a second. This is absolutely wild. What is happening, and it's because the incentives of the system don't go.
It looks, smells, and tastes like the butter we're all familiar with, but without the farmland, fertilizers, or emissions tied to that typical process. And this butter breakthrough, it's happening right here in Batavia. In the middle of an industrial park in a suburb west of Chicago, something unprecedented is happening.
So you're using this gas right now to cook your food. And we're proposing that we would like to first make your food with that gas.
The company is called Savor, and there's a stick of
Look,
and no.
This is so great.
You did it from
first here.
Here we go.
It's all done releasing ones in beef, cheese, or vegetable oils.
Sustainability is why we are here.
It's all done releasing.
So again, this is the moronic uptalk, right? I'm reading a script. I don't know what I'm talking about. This is why we're here. And Bill Gates himself had just come out and said that the global warming, what's happening, isn't exactly what we thought it was. So putting all these things together over time, Bill Gates talking to the CIA 20, 30 years ago in '05, and just go down the list of the system is breaking apart. And doesn't, if it happens a year from now or a month from now, or if it happens 10 or 20 years, it's like, it doesn't matter. It does not matter. Now, the more people that are educated and the more that we understand what's happening and actually realize what's going on, the faster we can get off the Titanic and get to the life raft, right? The faster we can get to this new system where the incentives are such that people are rewarded for the technological process instead of the people at the top of the system, and getting off of that US dollar Titanic. Because at the end of the day, yes, it is the US dollar inflation is a cattle prod to get people to do things, but at the same time, you're outrunning a speeding train. So you can't outrun the speeding train forever. And the poor and the middle class get absolutely destroyed. They get wrecked over time because they cannot save. They don't have assets. If you have assets, great. That's wonderful. You're going to win. You're at least going to hedge your purchasing power. You may outrun it over time if you're in Bitcoin or some of the harder assets. But the vast majority of people are going to get crushed. And this is why, for a long time, again, people thinking, hey, I'm doing the right thing. The Val Hararis, we've seen him at Davos. We've seen the central bankers. We've seen the Larry Fink sit there and say, we need to, and we'll go back and play another clip of Larry Fink talking about tokenizing the world. Oh, we need to tokenize the world. Why are we tokenizing the world? It's all these new different plays. It's ESG, it's the AI boom, it's all these different things of how can we round peg square hole? We've broken the system. The system is inept, but here we are. We're going to try to round peg square hole it, and we're going to try to get it back. We're going to the deep. Look at this. I mean, this was, I think it was a year or two ago. The deep institutional mistrust is the word, I believe it was the theme last year, if I'm not mistaken. So it's the same theme regurgitated over again. They know people. I mean, again, let's be honest. They're listening on our phones. They're listening on the Google Homes, the Alexas, all these things. I'm sure your Apple TV, all these things are listening to you. So it's not like the people don't know what's being talked about behind closed doors. And let me tell you, what's being said behind closed doors, I've seen a lot of talk behind closed doors, and it ain't the talk that's going on out in the mainstream. Let's just say that. I'm sure that's happening where you are too, where people are saying what really is on their mind. They're actually taking action. They're actually doing things behind the scenes that make these people tremble, absolutely tremble. And then you're seeing it with someone like Larry Fink.
But it's also
talking about this very thing.
We believe that outside the United Nations, this is the largest gathering of global leadership of the post-COVID period of time. For many people, this meeting feels out of step with the moment. We hear all about the elites. And how does that play out in an age of populism? How does an established institution make a difference in an era of deep institutional mistrust? And there's some truth to the critique. I believe in this forum for a long time. I certainly wouldn't be leading this if I didn't believe that we can change and make the world better. But it's also obvious that the world now places far less trust in us to help shape what comes next. If the World Economic Forum is going to be useful going forward, it has to regain that trust.
So, again, this makes me think of one thing, by the way, the government or the French central banker laughing at Bitcoin. And, people say, oh, government made Bitcoin and NSA made Bitcoin. And I always joke with people and say, yeah, sure, government did. Government created Bitcoin. Let's go with that. Let's run with that. Let's play that out. And most people you can't say anything about it, right? It's an open, decentralized, permissionless, trustless protocol. Doesn't matter. It leads you to a dead end very quickly. So, that's great and all. But at the end of the day, you have this system where these people created the lack of trust. They broke the money umpteen number of years ago, right? People have their different, whether it was 1913 or it was 1971 or 1964, right? Everyone's got their different dates, right? But the money was taken out of the currency. There's no trust in the system. And so now we're in a world where there's nothing backing the money that we're using. The feedback loops, there's broken feedback loops. The highest form of feedback loop we have is our money, is the market, is the free market. It's us sending price signals back and forth to each other. That is the highest form everywhere around the world. So if we don't have that, then we're beholden to our overlords, the people at the top, setting interest rates, 12 people at a table, the FOMC, the Federal Open Market Committees, the central bankers, the banksters, everywhere, right? So it's this cartel that is made up so that it can control people. And we've shared it here before. We've shared the American Affairs article from the 40s, where Beardsley Ruml, the head of the New York Fed, said taxes for revenue are obsolete. We don't need to tax you. And this was well before 1964, well before 1971. We don't need to do that. We basically have the ability to print the money now, and the tail wags the dog. We can lead you around wherever we want. And that was the birth of consumerism right at the end of World War II. And Eisenhower warned us, don't have the military industrial complex, don't do these things. We did all these things, right? Washington warned us about the two-party system. We did that. We were warned about the military industrial complex. Now we're doing that. So we keep having to learn these hard lessons. And we're going to keep learning the hard lessons. But the beauty is we actually have Bitcoin now, right? We actually have the answer to the system at the end of the day, to the new system. And a lot of people aren't seeing it. You have some of the brilliant minds out there, the Colonel Larry Wilkersons, the Colonel Douglas McGregors. And I think Douglas McGregor gets it a little bit. The Larry Johnsons, the Gerald Celentes, I was watching the Young Turks. I'm watching people on the Blaze. I'm watching people on the left and the right, and all these people. And most people are engaging in mass cognitive dissonance. They can't see through the fog. There's a fog of war right now. And the fog of war really is inflation. The fog of war is the broken money. It's the mistrust. No one knows who to turn to. No one knows what to do, where to go. And the feedback loops are broken. So how do we redesign that feedback loop? How do we bring back that feedback loop so we can trust each other at the end of the day? And there's actually price signals that are real, and that we actually can figure out what it is we need to do as a business, as a family, as a corporation, as a state, as a locale. So that to me is the real signal in all of this. And so these guys freaking out constantly, this is only going to speed up. Now, again, at the end of the day, I think that they are smart people. They know we're going into a certain world, the internet and things. They know the technology. You go back to the Club of Rome, the limits of growth, back to the 60s, 70s. They've been leading us and hurting us this way for a long time. You look at just mass formation psychosis or mass psychosis. Matthias Desmet wrote about this going back to the mid to late 1800s, and the British Crown started to really hone in on this. How can we control people? And they started testing on the military, and then it led to the public eventually, and it led to what a lot of people, you look at eugenics, all these different things. These were all different ways to control humans, to herd them, to eliminate them if they need to, whatever it might be, and the limits of growth. All these different apparatuses they've done over time to gain the resources for themselves. This is the world we are in. And again, going back to the beginning, Scott Adams, it's not good versus, we can say it's good versus evil. And to a degree it is. It's good versus evil spirit.
We believe that outside the United Nations.
Thanks, Larry. We don't need you right now, though. But it's good versus evil spirits. But at the end of the day, it's good versus good. Evil spirits can make you think you're going the right direction. It can make you think you're doing the right thing and going the right way. But this is all a system of control. Everything is by design. Everything's by control. And that's kind of the human aspect, the human nature of what happens when you have these bigger and bigger entities. We're going to go globalization, one world. We're going to token, in which we didn't even say in here, which I think it's right here, a unified blockchain. So we'll play this really quick, actually, because this is the one world currency, which we have now, the mark of the beast, which is the US dollar. So we're seeing the ramifications of that, of the mark of the beast, the US dollar, the global reserve currency that's destroying everyone through inflation. So here's Larry, though. He says, you know what? We need more of that. We need actually, and Larry's the one as well that has talked about Bitcoin being the trade of fear, a trade of fear. Now, he's somewhat right, but he's wrong in the sense of people are scared. But Bitcoin is the trade. Bitcoin is the protocol of hope. So he gets that there's fear. He understands there's fear, but he doesn't understand in the sense that we're not going back to the old system. Again, the 40 and under crowd, I can't get this through people's head enough. The 40 and under crowd is never going back. They are not going back. We could have a system where, there's CBDCs and there's UBI and there's some different things going on, but the people will continue to go to Bitcoin because it is the life raft out in the ocean that is the mirror against the Titanic. The Bitcoin life raft is sitting there, and it's a mirror, and it's showing you and the Titanic going down. So eventually people come over to it, and like Brian Armstrong said earlier, it shows the people, hey, there is an option. There is something outside of this that I can go to. And maybe worst case scenario, there are these other currencies, I'm sure other currencies will go down and spring up again over time. Governments will try to do crazy things as they always do. But you have this mechanism there keeping it at bay and providing accountability for the people. And so anyone that sits in Bitcoin and operates inside the Bitcoin network, you continually get wealthier over time. People might be jumping in and out of that other currencies and back into Bitcoin. But once you leave the life raft, it becomes very scary. Now it's cold. Now you're wet. It's freezing out. It's the middle of the night. It's the North Atlantic. It's April. Like this, you start chancing. You're playing game. You're playing fiat games. You're going to get fiat rewards if that happens. So this is the world we're in. So anyway, before I digress too much, I want to have Larry tell us about a unified blockchain, because he says, if whatever 100 fiat currencies are good, more is better. A unified blockchain, which again, hello Larry, you have the biggest ETF in the world, the Bitcoin ETF, and you don't even see it, right? Because this is them trying to put round peg square hole, put Bitcoin back in a box, trying to, and again, Larry's the head of the WEF now. He is the head, not Klaus Schwab. He is Mr. Bigglesworth. He is the guy, right? Like he is the guy. I can't say the other name. So he's Mr. Bigglesworth's owner. So that's Larry now. And yet he's the one that's, Bitcoin's biggest employee. So you can kind of be, 2 things can be true, 10 things can be true, 100 things can be true at the same time. He could be Bitcoin's biggest employee, but he also could be trying to put the narrative of Bitcoin back into the box and just, it's another asset inside the system. Well, newsflash, Larry, it ain't an asset inside the old system. It's the life raft off of the dollar network. So let's see what Larry has to say about the unified.
That's Brazil and India. I think we need to move very rapidly to doing that. We would be reducing fees. We would do more democratization by reducing more fees if we had all investments on a tokenized platform that you could move from a tokenized money market fund to equities and bonds and back and forth. We have one common blockchain. We will, we can reduce corruption. So I would argue that yes, we have more dependencies on maybe one blockchain, which we could all talk about. But that being said, the activities are probably processed and more secure than ever. I think the movement towards tokenization.
So there you go.
So Larry wants a unified blockchain. And again, has Larry not done the homework, or is he gaslighting us? Which is it? Again, it's just they want control. Brian Armstrong, again, which I'll play here in a second for those of you that came in later. We'll play a shortened clip of what I shared right at the onset. But, this is what led us down this road. But is Larry gaslighting us, or does he really not know? Has he not done the homework? He talks a pretty good game when he talks about Bitcoin. He kind of gets it. But then he says it's a trade of fear. I'm not fearful. I'm extremely hopeful, because I have a system you can't control, Larry. I have a system that Jay Powell can't control. I have a system that Donald Trump, Joe Biden, Gavin Newsom, none of them control. Christine Lagarde can't control. Augustus Carstens can't control. It's Mario Draghi, whoever, it's Ursula von der Leyen, none of them can control it. They're all trying to freeze their bank accounts. They're all trying to devise these ways they can keep you in a box. 15-minute cities, digital IDs, health passports, on and on and on, UBI, all this insanity, when in reality, if you just got on the Bitcoin network, the Bitcoin standard, all your problems go away. The World Economic Forum would go away. Scott Adams tried to design or write a financial literacy book, and then he basically brought it all down to one page, because financial literacy isn't tough. And it's not tough at all when you have Bitcoin. It solves 98% of your problems, probably 90 to 95% of your problems in your life. And then it probably solves 98 to 99% of your financial problems, because you continue to get wealthier over time. It's a finite protocol. There's only so much. And every piece you have, the 0.01 Bitcoin that you have, the million Satoshis, 240,000 Satoshis per person on Earth, every Satoshi becomes worth more and more and more as more people put their time, value, energy onto that network. Everyone benefits at the end of the day. And again, for the people that say all the time, well, yeah, but that's not fair. Well, it wasn't fair that I didn't get Malibu real estate. It wasn't fair that you didn't get Miami real estate. It wasn't fair that we weren't part of the British Crown, that we didn't get part of the Dust East India Company. It wasn't fair. No, I don't see anyone going around. No, instead, those companies, those entities are the ones that are running the World Economic Forum. They're doing more to beat you over the head and steal your time and energy and freedom. So what are we doing at the end of the day? Everyone has the chance to get Bitcoin right now. And everyone will always have the chance to get Bitcoin. As long as you provide value to society, as long as you do more for society, produce more than you consume, you will continue to get wealthier over time. Really measured in your wealth, your time and energy. Not in the sense of like, oh, I'm going to go get a bunch of Lambos or something like that. People won't even want Lambos over time because right now, as it stands, in a fiat currency, people measure how much fiat currency you have as a status symbol, what kind of Lambos you have, what you have, the keeping up with the Joneses, because the amount of currency keeps moving. So people track currency as a modem of status, where when the currency is not moving, when the money is not moving, not in a velocity of money way, because that's a whole different talk. And people think that, because Bitcoin, well, people want to hoard Bitcoin so they won't spend it. Of course you will. You're going to eat? Are you going to live somewhere? Do you want things in life? Of course you do. But when your mind has been flipped upside down and you actually realize, hey, the Bitcoin I worked for, I spent a little bit because I want something. And then the Bitcoin I have left is still getting more purchasing power, and I can still buy more next month than I did this month with what I have left. And that's if you didn't work at all, if you didn't provide value. If you keep providing value, you can replenish. But at the same time, Elon Musk just talked about this. I might have this somewhere. Elon Musk just talked about in the last month, we'll probably have no money someday, at some point in the future. 50 years, 100, 1,000 years in the future, if you have such abundance in society because deflation and technology has gotten to a point where everyone has such abundance and it just becomes so cheap that everyone has what they need or energy, then you could have a world where you don't even need money. And that's way off into the future. So I don't want to go too far down that road, but he mentions Bitcoin, right? We're going to have an energy money. Henry Ford talked about this 100 years ago, wrote about it in the newspaper. Now we have Elon Musk talking about it. Another great futurist of our time. Again, we're not going to get the Elon debate right now, but someone who's saying the quiet part out loud. Hey, we're going to have an energy money. Energy is life. We need to account for energy. And this is the best thing to do it, because we sure as hell know that it's not going to be government central bankers or, the central bankers and then governments. We can't trust them. Like you guys are saying here, less trust. They can't have less trust. How can you have less trust than zero trust? Larry, we wish you well, bud. We wish you well. Bankers are not independent. They get government bailouts. Jane Doe nails it. How can you have less trust? Orange Bird Dog said. You can't. They have zero trust. T-Mac, the elites don't even hide what they're doing anymore. It's just out in the open, right in your face, and people still don't wake up. And that's why we said here for a long time on this show, we're going to need pain, max pain. Doesn't necessarily mean we're going to have max pain. We want everyone onto the life raft with us. We know 100% that people on the Titanic here are going down. They're going to experience pain. This is not something to be fearful of. And this is where Larry Fink gets it wrong. We aren't fearful. I'm not fearful. I get upset. I get frustrated that more people don't see it quicker. I think a lot of Bitcoiners do, because the answer is there. The cure for economic cancer, which is fiat currencies, which is central banks, which is the fractional reserve banking system, which is Marxism at the end of the day, right here, the Communist Manifesto, keep your enemies closer, right? Plank 5, centralization of credit in the hands of the state by means of a national bank with state capital and an exclusive monopoly. This is that design. This is the design we are living in. It is anything but appropriate to be living. Now, if it's your family, maybe a communist or fascistic way to live with you and your spouse, with your children, that's great. That's wonderful. Hey, do as I say. Okay, awesome. Maybe that works. And then the further you get out that curve, you can't be doing that anymore, right? Capitalism is the best form of doing that on a sound money standard. On a sound money standard. This is what let me see here. I got to try to bring this up. The thing I had written a while ago, which I'll try to share here, but talking about what the society looks like. But before I do that, actually, I want to share for people that came in late what some of the argument that Brian Armstrong, which is, again, I'm someone who doesn't agree with Brian Armstrong a ton. Here we are. I agree with him in the sense that he told the truth a few years ago and said, hey, if the government comes after the Bitcoin that I have, which, mind you, he has 12 of the 13 ETFs I think he custodies, and a lot of Sailors he custodies. So if he says, hey, if the government says, give me that Bitcoin, I'm giving him the Bitcoin. I'm a U.S. company, and I'm doing it. So I give him props. He's being honest, being forthright, and he's had to stand up for Bitcoin. Now, would he be a lot further off? What do they have, 9,000, 10,000 Bitcoin? Would he be a lot further off if the last 10 years he would have just saved Bitcoin the whole time instead of, shitcoins casinoing the whole time? Yeah, he would. Would society be better off? Probably, if you weren't allowing people. That's how 10 years ago, that's how I got into Bitcoin. Because Coinbase had whatever it was, 5, 6, 8 other cryptos on there, I dabbled in a little bit of those too. I fortunately got more Bitcoin. And then as I was learning, I was like, well, I'm an investor. So I'm coming with an investor mindset of, the trend is your friend, position sizing, all these different things. And so I was like, okay, well, I don't know everything I need to know. So I'm going to get these other handful of coins. I'm going to get small little position sizes and all these other coins. And fortunately, over the next year or two, I figured out pretty quickly and I was able to convert that into all those into Bitcoin. But how many people have not? How many people, because of Brian Armstrong putting those out there? So again, someone who was studying gold and silver, someone that was studying for years, monetary history and all these different things, I'm looking for a solution. A lot of people know, and they're looking for a solution. They're looking for a new way to save wealth, to get outside the system and not have governments ransack their life, ransack their time and energy, get off the hamster wheel. But then having those options available, what is that doing at the end of the day, right? Freedom, Maxi, but at the same time, let's not put the cart before the horse. Let's not play with a bunch of scam tokens here until we fix the money. Once you fix the money, great, go ahead, play with your altcoins, do all kinds of stuff, meme coins, stocks, all this garbage, whatever the heck it is, do it. But until you fix the money, how can you denominate anything? How can you figure out what's going on? How can you have feedback loops? How can you tell what's actually happening if you cannot measure any of the assets, any of the coins, any of the businesses in a money that doesn't change? How can you do a science experiment when there's 10 trillion variables? You can't, right? The 7th grade science experiment. Bitcoin is the measuring stick. You can divide everything by 21 million, and then you start realizing what's undervalued and overvalued. Quick side note, by the way, I was actually working on something that we're dividing all the assets in the world by 21 million. And some of the rough estimates, and we're going to try to come up with something either like there's some different plugins people have that are great, like Marty Bent. I know they have their priced in Bitcoin, stuff like that. But how do you tell if something is overvalued or undervalued? And again, you should just save in Bitcoin and just hodl Bitcoin, produce what you consume, and save in Bitcoin. However, how do you know? And at the end of the day, if you divide things by 21 million, you might get somewhere around like 40 sats for a loaf of bread or something like that. I can't remember what it is, like 140 sats or 40 sats for a loaf of bread. So if you're paying more or less for a loaf of bread than 40 sats, you kind of get if things are undervalued or overvalued. So you can start denominating everything, all the assets in the world or all the items in the world by 21 million, and you start to get a very good understanding of where we're at and how far we have to go. So people worry again, we're late. I'm late to the party. No, we're extremely early. All you have to do is look at here. The central bankers laughing, and you can understand these people control the wealth of the world. We have a ways to go. Doesn't mean it can't happen though. The iceberg can't flip though, gradually and suddenly. We can have some mass extinction events. We can have some quantum leaps, some black swans happen, and things change just like this. Let's watch Brian in the central banker giggle.
Certainty, kind of like they did with gold.
Sorry to say that I trust more independent central banks with a democratic mandate than private issuers of Bitcoin, which have a very useful role. But
Bitcoin is a decentralized protocol. There's actually no issuer of it. So that's in the sense that central banks have independence. Bitcoin is even more independent. There's no country or company or individual who controls it in the world. And so anyway, I think it's a healthy competition because if people can decide which one they trust more, and I think it's actually the greatest accountability mechanism on deficit spending. Bitcoin.
Man, is that not just a dunk right in your face? Like, oh yeah, we're actually more independent. We're more decentralized than you are. So what do you say about that now? And they just laugh. This is clown world we're in. I want to play this last clip here because I think this is important. Maybe we'll talk about this more tomorrow a little bit too. But again, Howard Lutnick talking about the globalization failing, and I think we mentioned that the other day. They are trying to disrupt things. It's a race. In my eyes, after looking at everything and everyone, it is a race to who. The accelerationism. Who can collapse the world first and have it reimagined or rebuilt in their vision? Is it going to be the nationalist, populist world of more local, decentralized world, or is it going to be this globalist WEF, unified tokenization of all the assets and UBI and CBDCs? And these guys, I don't have the clip, but one of the central bankers is talking about the exact thing. Well, we're going to have CBDCs. We're going to have them. And it might have been the clip earlier we played in the beginning, actually, that 3-minute clip. And he talks about, well, we're going to have CBDCs and blah, 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 blah. No, you're going to have CBDCs. Those of us on the Bitcoin network, we don't care. If you own altcoins, you will be in the CBDCs. If you own USD, US dollars, fiat currencies, you will be in CBDCs and UBI. You will be controlled. You'll be in 15-minute cities. You'll have all that. Guaranteed. If you're holding gold and silver, you will also be in that system. You will then get put on the system. There is no way for you to transact outside the system. No matter what Peter Schiff says, you're not tokenizing gold. You sound like Larry Fink over here. You're tokenizing gold. Money is a psychological engine at the end of the day. Scott Adams talked about this all the time. Nolan Bowerly talks about this all the time. Money is psychological. Once that confidence breaks, which we are there, it's already eroding. We see it, right? This is the whole conference last year and the conference this year. The trust, the mistrust, Bitcoin's a trade of fear. The 40 and under crowd, because my opinion is that we have not gone faster with the Bitcoin movement here because the younger generation, the 40 and under crowd, is so poor compared to the older generations that they can't move. There's not much that they can do. But alas, the next 10 or 20 years are going to change things big time. As the demographic shifts and the wealth transfers, we're going to see a massive shift into Bitcoin. We're not going to operate in a world on gold and silver where you have to trust middlemen again. Who raise your hand, type 1 if you think we're going back to a world where I got to trust somebody. If you think I'm going back to the world, you're insane. If you think my kids are going back to that world, you're insane. I don't think anyone here is going back to that world. I ain't going back, as we say here as well. So yeah, Bitcoin everyone will get at the price they deserve. And I wish everyone well. The beauty of Bitcoin too is that the last person on, as we said many times here too, the last person on still wins, because the more people adopt Bitcoin, the better society gets. The wealthier society gets, the better feedback loops, the better price discovery, less social unrest, higher standard of living. So people aren't as angry. They're not out in the streets rioting. Guess what? A bunch of young people wouldn't be getting paid by a bunch of community organizers and billionaires in the world that go to Davos to go protest, because they'd be like, no, I've got a family now. I've got 2 cars. I've got a house, or I can pay my own way. I could do my own thing. I can afford a house. Why in the heck would I go in the street and go riot right now? Like, this is ridiculous. Like, what are we doing? These incentives start reshaping everything, and they start taking care of themselves. We have these problems because we've broken the trust of the money. You cannot have good society, or you cannot have good fruit from a bad tree. You can't have honest society from dishonest money. It's very simple at the end of the day. Everyone tries to go out the curve here because they're forced to. I'm the hamster wheel. I'm going to get into meme stocks. I'm going to get into meme coins. I'm going to get into NFTs. I'm going to get into all this stuff. When the trade is right in front of you, the answer, the 1-second decision to use a money that doesn't steal from you is directly in front of your face. And as society keeps understanding this day after day after day, the truth becomes clear. The fog is lifted. You're like in Frozen 2, the North Aldra people are living in a fog. Well, the fog eventually lifts and the sky clears and you can see the sun, and it becomes very obvious. It becomes very clear as to what's happening at the end of the day. So let's play Ray Dalio really quick here. And he's talking about, again, the mistrust and what's happening here, but also the breakdown of fiat. Very fascinating times, guys.
Let's step back from the sensational and be clear about what I mean. The monetary order is breaking down. Okay. What I mean by the monetary order is that fiat currencies and debt as a storehold of wealth is not being held by central banks in the same way, and that there was a change. The biggest market to move last year was the gold market, far better than the tech markets, right, and so on. And the U.S. markets underperformed foreign markets because of the fact you could see it in the numbers of the central banks and so on. So let's just look at the fact that on the other side of trade deficits and trade wars, there are capital and capital wars. And so as we're looking at that, and you reported what the stock market and so on, but you didn't report that the gold market is also up 3%.
We did say that earlier this morning.
Okay,
It's up to
what
record
I'm
levels
saying
again. And silver.
is you look at what is happening and why it's happening and who's buying it. So let's just take a moment on that capital war issue, okay? We know that both the holders of U.S. dollar denominated debt, which is money, and those who need it, the United States, are worried about each other, right? So if you have other countries who are holding it and they're worried about each other and we're producing a lot of it, that's a big issue, right? So you have to explain what is going on with fiat currencies, generally speaking. And now if you take the conflicts, you can't ignore the possibility that capital wars, in other words, maybe there's not the same inclination to buy US debt and so on. We at least need to talk about those possibilities and find out who is buying and selling what that is behind these market movements. And what.
Well, there you have it. There you have it, guys. The world order is changing. It's breaking apart. It's a fourth turning. It's the cataclysm of cycles, aggregation of everything we're going through, the technology disrupting everything. Bitcoin is here. It's given everyone hope. It's given everyone a life raft that can't be controlled. For thousands of years, we had gold and silver, which is the best thing we had, but it was still physical. So it was controllable, and you had to audit it, and you had to, it takes time and energy, time across space. That's where the funny games happen. The auditing, all these things, you have to trust middlemen. That is no longer. Again, Gigi wrote the article, Bitcoin is time. Ledgers, you have two types of money, ledgers and physical tokens. Those two things at the end of the day. If you're going to have a global society, you have to have a world that is on a ledger that can't be corrupted. We have that now. That is the greatest invention, the greatest discovery humans have made. I'm not sure. And again, why people don't see it quickly? A lot of people don't have to yet. Like we just said, the wealth, the people that have made their wealth in the fiat system, they hold most of the wealth. Why would I look for a new system? The people 40 and under, unfortunately, are the ones that are getting screwed. People looking for a price to pay and like, well, the PE ratios are out of whack, and there's no way. There's got to be a price to pay for all this debt and all the craziness. People are looking around. They're like looking up here. They don't see the poor middle class getting absolutely hammered. The 40 and under crowd, the people going into debt, the people crying on TikTok saying, I went to school for 4 years. I'm $100,000 in debt and I can't find a job. I can't get a house. I can't get married. I have to work for 15 years before I even think about getting married or dating or having kids or whatever it is. And why are we in a population decline? Like, come on. We got to wake up. We got to wake up. This is truly wild times we are living in. I'm going to share this really quick. I think this is an important, we just talked about this earlier. And this is something I wrote like a year ago or whatever it is, but this the structure of society. We talked about this, the monetary layer. You can't have good fruit from a bad tree. And the monetary layer is down at the bottom, and you build your society on rock, which allows deflation through Bitcoin. Prices go down over time if you're on that network. Or, and that goes up to your governing model and the private sector, et cetera. So how you choose to build society, people input them together and say they're together. Like money is a part, inflation and all this stuff is part of capitalism. That's not how it works. They're separate. And this is where the MBAs, the accountants, and the finance people, all this stuff, they assume the money. They go into school and they just assume the input is correct. They assume the money, the denominator, they assume the accounting structure is correct, the accounting mechanism. Well, we've decided over here on the right to build our house on fiat dollars with no trust, no backing, nothing. It's built on sand. It's built on quicksand. It allows inflation, prices go up. And now your laws, your private sector, everything's built on top of that. So what have we done? We've taken this whole part of society, all of society, it's now collapsing into the quicksand. And that's where we find ourselves now. And you can see it as plain as day. It's why we have the Davos crowd. It's why we have everyone here saying, oh, the sky is falling. Oh, mistrust. Oh, these things are going down. Oh my gosh, fiat's no longer. Well, that's why. But a lot of people are missing the follow the money aspect. Most people, God bless them, the Larry Johnsons of the world and all these political people and the Colonel Larry Wilkerson. I mean, so many smart people, the Jeffrey Sachs of the world, they know so much that isn't so. And I'm not sitting here saying I know everything, because I don't. These guys are way smarter than what I am when it comes to geopolitics and all these things, right? But the 80 IQ pleb understands this because it's street smarts versus book smarts. The street smarts person can see the forest from the trees and say, hey, guys, we need to relax here for a second. Like, what's happening? Like, we're using the wrong money. So everyone else has just gone down to step 2 and started from there, and they're trying to figure something out that doesn't exist anymore. This rules-based order, the international order, and the business cycle, and all these different things. You're never going to figure it out. As Jeff Booth says, you can't fix reality from the current system. You cannot do it. The best analogy is this analogy right here. It's the Titanic going down, and everyone thinking it's impossible to not go down. The US dollar can't go down. Bitcoin's too crazy, it's too volatile. And when you when you remove yourself truly off onto the protocol and you look and you zoom away and get back, because everyone on the Titanic still thinks it's good. They're shuffling deck chairs, right? They're getting into different investments. They're trying to trade in and out of deck chairs, trade in and out of stocks, trade in and out of altcoins, out of NFTs, out of gold and silver, paying taxes, getting hit over the head by the state. It's a clown bar. Then they're, on top of it, playing political games. Then they're out there trying to vote for a new captain. Hey, can this guy fix the hole in the ship? No, we already hit the iceberg, guys. We already chose. We already chose dishonest money, and you're going down. And the Bitcoiners are on the life raft. Only the Bitcoiners. Literally only can be seen from Bitcoin. That's maybe the controversial statement of the day, right? Only can you see it from Bitcoin. So it doesn't matter if you're 10, which 10-year-olds, kids, they can see it, all the way up to 100 years old. We got people that watch this channel. This channel is 35 to 65. We got a lot of people on this channel that come and comment that are 45, 55, 65, 75. They can see it too. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who you are, your skin, your creed, your religion, your age, doesn't matter. If you're a Bitcoiner and you start understanding the properties of money, you start learning the incentives of society and how things work, you follow the money, things become much clearer. The fog is lifted, and then you back away from the Titanic, and only then can you see the ship is going down. The whole thing is going down. Granted, it might be in slow motion. It might take 50 years, 5 decades, might take, whatever it is. Lifespan of a currency is 30 years. Civil War is like 33 years in the countries around the world. Like, that's the average. So it takes a while. It might take 3 more years, 3 more months. It might take 12 more years or 20 more years or whatever, but it is going down. So that's why Bitcoin continues to go up. It's a trade of hope. It's not the trade of fear like Larry Fink says it is. That's why Brian Armstrong is right. Don't agree with him on many things, but he is right when he says Bitcoin is more independent than you are. It's more decentralized. And the central bankers just laugh at the end of the day. That's all they can do. So it's time to get your Bitcoin, study Bitcoin, work for Bitcoin, trade your currency, save in Bitcoin, right? And self-storage. Get an open source hardware wallet. We like Foundation, the sponsor we have of our show. Appreciate you guys, again, using them. Many of you have used them, and you supporting the circular economy, but more importantly, supporting your own freedom. That's the most important. That's why we have them. At the end of the day, truly, put your seed in the stamp seed, and let's hang out together. Study Bitcoin more. Be convicted in what you own. Know what you own. Know what you believe, and believe what you know. Period. This is inevitable if we do our part. If we uphold the integrity of the system, the decentralization and security of the system, and we educate ourselves, we help others around us, we run a node, we do what we need to do in order to be the shining city on the hill, to be the example, to be a leader at the end of the day. People are going to need leaders. Humans are going to need many leaders going forward. Many of us, maybe we didn't think we were going to be leaders. Maybe we didn't think we were going to be looked at to lead. But we will. We are, and we will. Because humans are going to need it big time. Because things are not going to be easy. There's going to be chaos. There's going to be max pain for many people. Bitcoin is a life raft. You are max pain if you're on the Titanic, whether you realize it or not. And then Bitcoin is the life raft off the ship. It's the only hope. Otherwise, it's AI, digital panopticon, 15-minute cities. You're going down. You're going down the Titanic. You're going to be 12,000 feet under the sea, whether you think it or not, whether you like it or not. As Ayn Rand said, one of my favorite quotes, you can ignore reality, but you cannot ignore the consequences of ignoring reality. With that, I appreciate you guys. Try to do somewhat of a quick one today. Check out, let me know what your thoughts are. We have a great podcast we did with Matt Prusak of American Bitcoin Mining, and we have some other good ones coming up too with Nolan Bowerly. Check those out. Really appreciate you guys a ton. Mel Madison soon, the Club Orange guys, again, one of our sponsors, really the first and biggest social Bitcoin app for Bitcoiners. We got some great stuff coming. Samson Mao's coming soon. I'm excited. And plenty more live streams. So appreciate you guys. Have an awesome evening. We'll see you tomorrow. We'll be live streaming tomorrow as well. I think it'll just be me. I don't think I'm going on with anybody. We've got some recordings tomorrow, but we'll see you guys probably later tomorrow afternoon. We'll do a live stream as well. So appreciate you guys. We'll see you tomorrow.